All right, guys, just want to welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, I'll be doing a Week 8 preview and prediction for a bit of a trap game potentially in the Big Ten between 25th ranked Nebraska and Minnesota. Going on the road, Huskers are 5.5-point favorites. 47.5 is the total. 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox from Minneapolis. Getting started with the Nebraska offense on that Minnesota defense. This has been a good unit for Nebraska this season. Obviously, Dylan Raiola, sophomore quarterback, has been very impressive for the most part. Throughout the year, he's been able to make some big plays downfield. He's also had some inconsistencies when it comes to his decision making, some boneheaded plays, against Michigan and Cincinnati, and then against Maryland he had 3 interceptions. He was trying to throw the ball away on one of them. The third one was just a bad ball, and then the first one I think was also a bit of a miscommunication with the receiver of sorts. Not the worst interceptions in the world. I think this is a guy that's definitely seeing the field quite well. About 1,600 yards passing this year, of 16 touchdowns. I mean, he's given this passing attack life, and I thought outside of those picks, he played very well against Maryland, completed 69%, was able to hook up with some big-time plays of his pass catchers in this game against the Terrapins on the road, especially in the red zone. That's why they didn't have any rushing touchdowns, but he was able to connect with a variety of different players throughout the game. Dane Key, of course, this is a great physical pass catcher, 210 pounds. He's got 4 scores on the year. Desire Hunter's kind of their do-it-all player, 415 yards, 4 touchdowns. He can really win outside. He can really help stretch the field as well. He's got nice, tough hands. And Ja'Cory Barney, though, is overall the guy who's going to be the speedster, 170 pounds, 364, and 3 touchdowns on the year. They like to get it to him on special teams, and eventually, from time to time, they'll do some trick plays where they do hand the ball off to him. But he's been quiet for the most part. He did have 120 and 2 touchdowns against Michigan the last couple of games. Not as much, but this is a big play receiver that Minnesota is definitely going to have to account for. It's a Minnesota secondary that has been, tested this year. Obviously, they played Ohio State, didn't have much success. Nobody does. So, obviously, you can just kind of put that game in the rear view. But against Cal, it was a less than ideal effort against the freshman quarterback all the way back on the 13th of September. Gave up almost 300 yards passing in that one. And then against Purdue, 203 yards, but they did snag 3 interceptions, so that's probably the prettiest performance of the year for them. This is a group that's led by superstar safety Coy Parrish, of course. He's been playing a lot of box safety as well. He hasn't been as efficient as a tackler this year or as forceful against the run, but he's a ball-hawking coverage. He can really make things happen back there with his range. They've been getting him on the field on offense a little bit as well. But I think for these corners, this is going to be a big-time test. John Nestor, Saquon Bryan. This is a new-look group coming into 2025, and so far they've been all right. But I think this is going to be a big test for them to see how they can hold up against some skilled pass catchers. And again, against the Buckeyes, they had trouble, and I'm not really going to fault them for it. This is a young group here at the FBS level, and of course you're facing some of the top receivers in the country. But those are the guys that struggled for the most part in that game. Parrish himself, though, was abysmal in coverage. Gave up 100-plus yards in that one. Mike Gerald got on the field at corner for a couple of snaps and got blitzed. So it's a very weak corner group, and they've just not been very good this year at defending. That's why you're going to need to find some pass rush, which you can always do in the hopes of Anthony Smith. This guy's tremendous off the edge, 6.5 TFL. He's got 4.5 sacks as well this year. He's their do-it-all pass rusher. Outside of him, it's not too many different guys. Rashawn Lawrence has been good on the D-line. Carter Menz as well. Jackson Howard, a younger guy who's got some nice explosiveness at 250 pounds. So it's not the greatest of group for Minnesota. I think playing at home, they're certainly going to be turning in a better performance than you would typically see. But they just hosted Purdue, and their run defense got smoked. It was the first time all year the run defense really had any issues. 253 that they allowed to the Boilermakers in a 7-point victory. And that's not good going up against a balanced offense. It's not just about the passing attack. They also have Emmett Johnson in the backfield, who's been a complete workhorse for them, coming off a season-high 176 yards. Earlier on the year, hit 100-plus against Cincinnati, which is downhill running, but against Maryland, he was able to really showcase his elusiveness. Against Michigan State, showcased his effectiveness in the red zone with 3 touchdowns. This is a do-it-all back when it comes to his ability to run the football and also be a pass catcher. 24 receptions on the year. He's been a nice check-down artist for him. He's been able to make some things happen. Emmett Johnson, phenomenal player. And this run game has really improved, and you got to be happy with what they've been able to provide. Against Michigan, wasn't great. Against Michigan State, overall, they didn't run the ball very effectively. Of course, you have some sacks to bring those totals down. But they're able to get back on track against Maryland, and they could certainly have a wonderful afternoon here. Well, night, that is, because tonight game, Friday night, this contest is going down. I think this offensive line for Nebraska is very improved from where it used to be. Remember, we used to know them as being one of the worst offensive lines in CFB, and now they have a veteran group that starts with the ballers on the interior. Henry Lovsky, left guard, I love him. Justin Evans is a stud at center. And then at right guard, Rocco Spindler, the transfer, has been probably the best player for them up front. I think the tackles have been a little bit underwhelming. Gunnar Gatula got the start this past weekend at right tackle. It was respectable. Elijah Pritchett has been giving up sacks, much like he did last year at Alabama, 4 of them at left tackle. But he's been a really good run blocker. So even though the tackles have been a little disappointing for me, especially with all the different options they have there, the interior is still a big strong suit, and they figure they have a nice advantage against Minnesota on the interior. Devin Eastern, another one of those big defensive linemen that they're going to hope to get some production from. Jalen Logan Redding as well. A couple of the veterans that do have size have just not been very effective for them. So the defensive line's just never been a great group in terms of making negative plays for Minnesota. Middle of the defense, Devon Williams, he's really emerged as a great player at linebacker. Marvin Branikowski as well. These two have been very dominant against the run, very efficient tacklers, and they also do pretty well in coverage as well in Nebraska with their versatility in the way they want to attack the middle of the field. The linebackers are going to have some tough responsibilities, and they might be able to win a couple of those to get off the field. So the linebacking group is a phenomenal unit for Minnesota, and they can take you very far. But I just don't know if the secondary is going to be able to hold up vertically or downfield in one-on-one coverage. Moving to the other side of things, the Minnesota offense on the Husker defense. Redshirt freshman quarterback Drake Lindsey, he's a couple starts into his career now. It didn't have a very pleasant afternoon against Purdue, only completed about 47% with an interception. The Ohio State game, of course, was very tough. Against Rutgers, though, he had a nice coming-out party, 75%, 324, 3 touchdowns, of course. The Scarlet Knights have proved to have a pretty weak defense, but it's nice in terms of building confidence and to know you're seeing the field well. Lindsey, I think, has been playing all right football this year on 214 yards per game. His pass-catching group has been less than stellar. This is a group I thought you could get a lot out of with some of the transfers they had. Javon Tracy was the biggest one. He's second on the team right now with 253 receiving yards. Freshman Jalen Smith's kind of been a big play receiver. Third on the team with 10 receptions. Then Lameek Brockington has shockingly been their top dog. 23 reps for 253. I think they have a nice tight end, Jamison Gears, as well. 3 touchdowns this season to lead the team. Darius Taylor, this is a guy that is a do-it-all running back for them. Gets a lot of touches, about 17 per game so far this year. His efficiency's just been nowhere to be found. It's been tough for this group to really do anything rushing the football. He had 141 back in week 1 against Buffalo. Is not top 40 yards rushing since. He did miss 2 games early on in the year, but against Purdue, 2.3 yards per carry. And against Ohio State, only got a couple of touches. So it's really been hard for him to get into a rhythm and find a groove. He did have 6 grabs for 67 yards to lead them in the receiving game. And he's capable of doing that. He can be a dual threat guy and leads you in rushing and receiving. He has no problem doing that. And I think as he starts to get more healthy, you're going to continue to see a heavy workload from him. This rushing attack, though, collectively has been awful, especially the last 3 games, less than 70 yards in each of them, including 2 games under 40. And then they had a $130 against California, where they were respectable, but nothing's really going to be game-changing for them. The only game they really looked good in running the football was that Week 1 opener, and then against Northwestern State, but that doesn't really count. So this has just been a rushing attack that's no good. They've been very sluggish, and it's been a downward spiral for them for a couple of years now here under PJ Fleck. That this is a group that could run for $150, 200 a game and do it with physicality, an overall impressiveness, and they've just not been able to find that. And they've this new offensive line. They're breaking in. I think they've been good in pass protection. Greg Johnson over at left guard. Center Ashton Beers has been really good. And they have a right guard, Marcellus Marshall, though, who's just been abysmal. It's been a really poor position for him. Dylan Ray gets involved at right guard often. He's also been playing a lot of right tackle. It's just been a position of weakness for him, especially over there on the right side. And it looks like they're going to keep him, Dylan Ray, that is at right tackle. And they've been really just doing a lot of different combinations with this offensive line, trying to figure out what's going to be best, because they do have size. Greg Johnson, for example, who did start last game at right tackle, 6'6", 325. It's a group that does have some size and physicality. And Nathan Roy over at left tackle has probably been their most impressive offensive lineman. So I think these tackles have the capability to play some really good football. They're going up against a pass rush that's really not all that great for Nebraska, though. So I think that this is a matchup they could potentially win that's going to give their young quarterback opportunities to work downfield. You look at this defensive line for Nebraska, and you really don't know who the breakout player is. Williams Nowerney, of course, the transfer from Missouri, has been all right. Cameron Lenhart, Deshaun McCullough coming off the edge has been not as consistent, but he's also made some phenomenal plays at times, and I think that's certainly respected for this defense. Riley Van Poppel, a guy that hasn't made the impact I thought he would so far this year, Keona Davis. I think it's a group that's certainly a work in progress. It's a younger group. Elijah Judy, one of their top interior guys, has also really struggled against the run. So I think with time they're going to develop, but for 2025, it's just not going to be that impactful of a group outside of Nowerney off the edge. The linebacking group is phenomenal, though, kind of like the Golden Gophers. Javen Wright has been elite, especially against the run. Vincent Shaver's been a little banged up, but he's a guy that's also very consistent in his performances. I like the secondary. They're not perfect by any means, especially at corner. Andrew Marshall, Donovan Jones. These are guys that can be taken advantage of. Sierra Wright is probably their best corner overall. They've really been getting all three of those guys on the field as much as they can. They've been rotating a good bit. Wright has been playing a lot of slot this year compared to last year. His tackling hasn't been as good, but he's really enhanced his run defense efforts. I think that conversion has been beneficial for this secondary. Deshaun Singleton, Marquise Buford, two veteran safeties in the back end who are really good against the run, and I think they do well in coverage. For Nebraska, who, they played a good game, I thought, overall. The linebackers, I think, were a big issue in coverage. And then the corners as well had some problems. Maryland was able to rip off some impressive plays. Malik Washington had some really nice throws in that game, even when things were covered up. So I don't think the secondary for Nebraska is a big problem. And they've not really had any issues all year long. I mean, Michigan only had 105 yards on them. And then Michigan State, that's a team that has some pretty impressive pass catchers, held them to 156. So this is not a bad secondary at all. I definitely think the corners are a little bit less talented than maybe in years past. But these safeties are great. And Sierra Wright's also giving them some really good production, again, out of the slot. So it's really the linebackers is what it comes down to. That's where they had some success targeting the middle of the field. And they're going to look to do that. They're going to try and put gears in Taylor and favorable matchups on those linebackers to attack through the air. But I don't think they're going to be able to generate a whole lot downfield, and unless they can create some play action, which I just don't think they will, because this run game has just been so poor. I think they can have success. I think they can find 120 to 140, 50 yards against Nebraska in this game. But it's really going to be tough because they've just been so poor running the football, right? But I don't think that Nebraska is the greatest of run defenses in this conference. Obviously, against Michigan, they had a tough afternoon. 286 in that one. Couldn't really get a stop. Nobody else, though, has really been able to do much. Cincinnati had 200-plus yards. That was really just the quarterback taking off Sorsby against man coverage and just getting chunk plays. They weren't really that bad against the run. So this is a good run defense. They had some missed tackles on a touchdown that the running back for Maryland had. So a few things they need to clean up. I think Minnesota can have some success running the football, but enough to establish a play-action pass game, I don't think it's going to be available. Final thoughts on the prediction on this one. It's an interesting game, right, because these night games, especially on a Friday, could be interesting for Minnesota. It's usually when they play their best football. The weather's starting to cool down a little bit, so, typical Big Ten football here in Nebraska. They're going to look for them to be sleeping in this one. I don't think they're going to, though. I think they're going to have that balance. I think they're definitely going to play a little bit better defense since they're at home, that being the Golden Gophers. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a clean game from Nebraska, and I think they will force Minnesota to be in those long down and distance and throwing the football. I just don't know how effective they are going to be running the ball. I do expect them to at least hit 100-plus yards, though, right? But I think Darius Taylor's going to get a lot of touches as well. So they'll make some plays. I think they might get out to an early lead. As long as Nebraska takes care of the football, they should rally to a 5.5-point cover. That's going to be the best bet for now. Probably want to stay away, maybe lean towards the under in this one. But I think Nebraska's going to win this game by 7 points at the end of the day. They're a better football team, a different era under Matt Rule. They now win close games, it appears. And they're not going to get caught sleeping in an opportunity like this. But I do anticipate they're going to start behind in this game. So Nebraska to win, 5.5 cover. That's me for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.